Rev up your engines!
Pat Durkinson, Scotty, have you ever thought of working with auto engineers and auto designers to build a worthwhile vehicle? I wouldn't waste my time because the companies that build cars are gigantic corporations. Research a while back that even if you wanted to start making one model car, you'd have to have $250 million in order to get enough money to build it, to get all the regulatory stuff done so you could actually produce a car. So when you're talking about that kind of money, there are so many inside interests. And of course, the people that build cars now are interested in one thing: profit. So they want to make them as cheap as possible to sell them as expensive as possible. You can't blame the engineers most of the time because they're told, you got to make it for this price. We want to make them faster, and can we produce them even cheaper than we are now? They're going the exact opposite direction than what they should be going if you want long-lasting, well-priced cars that don't cost a fortune and last a long time. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. A capitalist society is all set up for profit, so I don't think that that's really going to happen, unless there's a big revolution somewhere. Michael Pillis says, what's the most reliable North American pickup truck? Until this year when they went to the V6 turbo, I'd say the Toyota Tundra. And they're built in San Antonio, Texas. So they are North American pickup trucks. They're built here. Now, if you're talking about American companies, well, I'd have to go with Ford then. But the Tundras, when they had the V8 engines, phew, I've seen them with 500,000 miles and they can still tow 15,000 pounds and still go down the road. They're just overbuilt trucks. They were solid built trucks. And with that V8 engine, they could tow a lot. They could pull a lot. They were real well built. Not a fan of the new turbocharged V6 ones, though. Lord Nargo says, Scotty, what do you think of the 3.3 naturally aspirated V6 and the base model F-150? They're good engines. They're not made for the hauling and the pulling of the big V8s, but if you're not doing real heavy hauling and real heavy pulling, one of my friends in Rhode Island has one. He bought it new. He loves the thing. And it's naturally aspirated. You know, you're not dealing with turbochargers that do break all the time. You know, a lot of the model ones have dual turbos on them and everything wears out faster. But no, if you don't need the extra horsepower that the V8 puts out, those naturally aspirated V6 are excellent engines for just a truck for driving around in. Jeep5 Alive says, Scotty, what do you think of the early 2000s Ford Crown Victorias? Well, the Crown Vics are solid built at Panther frame setup, solid frame. The police still are running some of them for their police cars. Big V8 engines, they were really well made. And for a big V8 car, in town they were real gas hogs. But on a highway, those things could get decent gas mileage. They could get 20-something miles a gallon. For a big car like that, that's something. And they could run a long time. They don't make them anymore. And if you're looking to buy an old one, of course, it might be all worn out by now, but you could always put another engine or tranny in them. They were a lot simpler and cheaper to replace the modern engines are. They were solid built cars. Michael Goodyear says, Scotty, I'm on my way to buy an 02 Chevy Silverado with 137,000 miles for $3,500. What should I look out for? Okay, I'm not a fan of Chevy Silverados, the modern ones. But that's an 02. They were still pretty well made back then. I've got customers with 300,000 on those things, and they're still running on 02, 99, 01. What you want to do is bring a scan tool to make sure there's no oddball codes, and road test it for at least 15 minutes. If he doesn't have much gas, buy some gas. Put in $5. Drive it around. See how the transmission shifts, because the weakest thing of that is the automatic transmission. And make sure the engine's running with a scan tool. It'll tell if it has misfires or anything. But the main thing to check on that is the automatic transmission. So check that. Cool Man Cool 63 says, Scotty, should I buy a Chevy Express or a Toyota Hiace? All right, well, I'd definitely buy the Toyota Hiace if I was somewhere where they sell them. I would not buy one in the United States because it's a model they do not sell in the United States. Parts would be a pain to get. They're not set up for the American OBD2 setup. They're set up for a different type. So getting them worked on, getting parts would be a pain in the butt. If you live in other parts of the world where they actually sell them, I do not advise anybody to buy like a Japanese vehicle and import it to the United States to use for standard transportation. For a nice collector's item like I did the one in Rhode Island last year where the guy brought me the all-track four-wheel drive Celica that he bought that was made in Japan and imported, and it was a toy for him. He wasn't driving it all the time. For an everyday driver, you want to buy a vehicle that's sold in your area because you're going to need parts eventually when it wears out. Rickety Splits. So Scotty, I own a 2017 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid with 60,000 miles. I plan on trading it in July for a Dodge Challenger V8. Do you know if my Sonata is at least semi-reliable as a car? Well, yeah, you only got 60,000 miles on it. The thing about Hyundais is as they age, they can get expensive to repair. They'll break more often, but you're talking about 120,000 miles or more. Well, now you're saying you're going to traded for a Dodge Challenger. Well, let me warn you something about a Dodge Challenger. If you're getting a brand new one, okay. If you're getting a used one, that might be a big mistake. People buy those cars with those big Hellcat engines that have 700-something horsepower. They drive them like maniacs, and usually they're three-quarters destroyed by the time the original owner gets tired of driving them and sells them. If you're going to buy a Challenger, you're better off buying a new one. The used ones, you're taking a big gamble. Steve Gerhardt says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on solid-state batteries? Could they be a game changer in the EV market? They would be a game changer, but no one knows. It's kind of like when I was a kid in the 60s. Flying cars will be here soon. Well, they're not really here, right? And the problem with solid-state batteries is this. Regular batteries, even lithium-ion, lithium iron phosphate batteries, they do have a liquid electrolyte that creates problems. Well, the solid states don't. They have a solid electrolyte. But the problem is the solid electrolytes, when you charge them and discharge them, have a tendency of growing these things called dendrites. They're sharp little things. And they poke through and they short out the battery. Now, no one has really solved this problem yet. It may never be solved. We don't know. There's various people working on it. Every once in a while, I read the news and some guy at a university or research center says, yeah, we got this. It's going to revolutionize. And then you read the fine print. It says, well, we might be producing these things 10 or 20 years from now. So if it comes to fruition, yes. But will they make them and will they actually work? Nobody knows. Will they cost too much? Will they not last long? The problem with them now is a few times you charge them, recharge them, and they're no good anymore. So it's up in the air on that one. Anthony says, Scotty, will steel seal clog my new radiator? Steel seal is an old sealer. Now, it works with the old green antifreeze, the inorganic acid technology, IAT. But for a really long time, take Toyota, since 1990, they've used organic acid technology. They use a pink one, but it's just a dye. OAT, organic acid technology. Sometimes HOT, which is a hybrid organic acid. But regardless, the steel seal doesn't work with them. It'll clog it all up. You can only use it with the old green antifreeze or with pure water. And, of course, you can only use pure water in the summer. If in the winter it freezes your engine, it'll crack and break because it makes ice and it'll pop the engine. So realize that. Sealers that I use now, I don't use the steel seal anymore because you can't mix it with the modern coolants. I use Barr's head gasket and radiator sealer. You can get it at AutoZone, O'Reilly, any of the auto parts stores sell them. I buy the good stuff. It's like $20 for a bottle, and it's mixable with the modern coolant. You can't use the steel seal with an old coolant. It's not made to run with it. Noah Samuel Marcus says, Scotty, I got a Honda Ridgeline 2011 with 67,000. What should I do the timing belt? Well, they always tell you should change them over time because they're rubber timing belt. But let me tell you the truth. It's an 11-year-old vehicle, but it's a Honda. And from my experience, working on them for 53 years, I have never seen a Honda timing belt break on a Honda engine that had less than 100,000 miles. It didn't matter how old it was. I'd never seen one actually break. So I'd wait till it had 100,000 miles if I were you. I have never, ever seen a timing belt break on one of those things before them, ever. They're so well made. Jesse John says, Scotty, I got a 2010 Cadillac. Has a leak at the front of the motor. What are the most common causes of leaks in Cadillacs? Okay, if it's the front of the motor, it's almost always the water pump. The water pump's in the front. And the water pumps have what's called a weep hole. Spins off the belt, but then it's got a weep hole where the bearing is. And the weep hole's there for one main reason. If it didn't have a weep hole, if the pump started to leak through the seal, it could build up pressure and blow the front of the water pump pulley into the radiator and ruin the radiator. So they have what are called weep holes. So when the seal goes bad, it leaks out of that weep hole. And then it always drips on the front of the engine. Check that. And you get a big flashlight, look at the water pump, and you see there's this little weep hole, little tiny hole. Coolant's coming out of there. You need a new water pump. And you'll see that. I mean, you could get a hose leak, you could get all kinds of leaks, but normally it's the water pump leaking through that little weep hole. Mohammed says, what do you think of Mercedes E320 straight six diesels? I've heard they are indestructible. Well, everything's destructible eventually, but those are relatively indestructible engines. You change the oil and don't overheat it. Those six-cylinder diesels can go forever. Before, they had the five-cylinder diesels, and they were pretty indestructible too. They were, at one point in time, the five-cylinder diesels were the highest-selling Mercedes cars in North America. Not just diesel cars, but cars themselves. They sold more than the gasoline ones. The 300 turbo diesels and the SDs, they were very popular cars. They were very, very strong engines. Now, they are diesels. Most people say, oh, diesels get great gas mileage. Well, they didn't get great gas mileage, but that's because they're a heavy car. And if you got a big, heavy car, it doesn't matter what kind of motor you put in it, it's going to get relatively poor gas mileage. But the engines, they can run forever. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, Remember to ring that bell.